Hey guys, welcome to my first look video on Audi's brand new RS5 Saloon. And later on in the video, we're going to check out the RS5 Avant. And the Audi Sport's first plug-in hybrid. As we know, Audi's recent badging strategy is a little bit complicated, but think of this RS5 Saloon as the RS5 Sportback replacement from the previous generation. And think of the RS5 Avant that we're going to look at later as the RS4 Avant replacement. This particular example is in Bedford Green, and I think it looks absolutely stunning, although I think they've done such a good job with the styling that it would look good in pretty much any colour. Compared with the regular A5 and even the S5, well, this car is barely recognisable, to me at least. They've done so much to it, and we're about to walk around and have a look at what that is. So we have new bumpers around the front end, far more aggressive, lots of black styling going on, and good to see that we have an RS badge, because they did remove RS badges off some of the recent RS3s that are now back on there. And then when we get around the back, well, the rear bumper essentially is all new. We've got a diffuser down here. We've got the trademark RS oval exhaust pipes, and they are the biggest oval exhaust pipes I've ever seen. I mean, I can get both of my fists in there, and they look absolutely stunning. I love the way they've brought them into the middle of the car. Kind of reminds me a bit of the Porsche Cayenne Turbo GT. Just looks fantastic, and I'm hoping that they sound really good as well. Now, when we get down the side of the car, the reason that it looks so big and muscular is because they've replaced the rear wings and they've replaced the front wings. They've got the same breathers that we saw on the RS6 GT. Also, the rear doors they've had to replace because they flow nicely into those wider rear arches. The only panels on this car that are the same compared with the regular A5 Sportback or S5 Sportback are the rear boot lid, the roof, and when we get around the front, we've got the bonnet and the front doors. But otherwise, they're all unique body panels. And I was talking to the designer of this car earlier on, and you could just tell his genuine excitement around this car.
For us designers, it's really a dream to work on the RS5 because the base model is already super attractive, and on the RS we are able to enhance the proportions, we have better stance, we have a wider track. It's just a dream, and it became a fantastic car.
Big, wider, punchier cars look even better once you get them out on the road and they're moving. Now, aside from all the panel changes that we just talked about, of course, they've had to make the track wider as well. So the overall width of this car is about 45 millimeters wider, which is roughly 2 inches. Something else to talk about while we're on the outside are the wheels. Now, this particular show car has the optional 21-inch wheels, but they come standard on 20-inch wheels. And behind those, this also has the massive, I think they're 440 millimeter optional carbon ceramic brakes. And for the first time on this segment of car, Audi give you carbon ceramics on the front axle and on the rear axle, because with the previous generation RS4 and RS5, if you opted for the carbon ceramics, you would only get it on the front axle. And visually, I think they've come straight off the C8 RS6. Now, under the bonnet, we have a 2.9 litre V6 twin turbo. It's similar to the outgoing 2.9 litre V6 from the previous RS4 and RS5, but it's also heavily revised. Talking to some of the technical team earlier on, they reckon that 60% of this engine is new. And in terms of the combustion engine alone, it produces just over 500 horsepower and 600 Newton meters of torque. But remember, this is a hybrid, so it's paired up to an electric motor and hybrid system. Now, the electric motor on its own produces about 180 horsepower and 460 Newton meters of torque. They claim that it has an electric-only range of almost 80 kilometers, so that's 50 miles. And that all comes from a 22 kilowatt hour battery, which is essentially mounted underneath the boot floor. So you've got the battery at the back of the car and you've got the combustion engine at the front of the car. So in terms of weight balance, it should be pretty good. When you combine that electrical energy and the internal combustion engine, you're left with 639 horsepower and 825 newton meters of torque. So a massive leap compared to the previous generation. But it is hauling around a lot more weight. Audi had to make this a hybrid in order for them to still offer the V6 engine, because modern emissions stipulations and rules just mean that, unfortunately, if we want to continue to drive cars like this, they have to be paired up with a hybrid system. And this car is about 640 kilos heavier than its predecessor. I think it's 2,355 kilos, so 200 kilos lighter than the M5. But I've worked out that the power to weight and the torque to weight is actually a slight improvement over the previous generation. And that shows with its claimed performance figures. Audi Sports say it will do the 0 to 62 sprint in just 3.6 seconds. That's probably a conservative figure. And it will go into a limited top speed of 285 kilometers per hour. These new RS5s will actually stop 11% quicker compared to the previous RS5 Sportback and RS4 Avant, which I'm quite amazed at, because as we've just talked about, they're a lot heavier. But that's down to a far more complex ABS system and bigger brakes, bigger tyres, bigger wheels, all of those ingredients. But that's really, really impressive, because most of the time when you add a lot of weight to a car, its stopping distance tends to get a little bit longer. In terms of pricing, you're looking at about £89,500 for the base RS5 Sportback and an extra £2,000 to get the RS5 Avant. Obviously, there's going to be a black edition and there's going to be a Vorsprung, and the Vorsprung's about £108,000, and that will come with all the bells and whistles. And what's interesting is that they've priced it about £2,000 cheaper than BMW's M3 Saloon and BMW's M3 Touring. I absolutely love the current M3, and I think it's the real benchmark for this segment of cars. And as far as I'm concerned, it really was a much better car than the previous generation B9 RS4. So I'm looking forward to driving both of those, because again, speaking to all of the Audi Sport guys and girls down here, they say that this is dynamically brilliant. So it'd be interesting to see how they've gone about trying to hide some of its weight and also its size. Before we jump inside, I want to talk quickly about the rear diff on this. It's called an electromechanical torque vectoring rear axle. I think I've got that right. But it's very, very tricky. Obviously, it has to do a lot. All of the systems in this car, the Quattro system, has to do so many things because it's working with the combustion engine, it's working with the electrical motors. And again, going off what they've said, well, this car is now very tail happy. It even has a drifty mode, I forget what they call it, which I find to be a little bit artificial in the RS3. But even the previous generation B9 felt really nice and balanced, and the understeer, or the Audi steer, was pretty much gone in the B9, and they're claiming that this car has got rid of all of that, and in fact you can play around with the torque distribution and it should be quite tail happy. So I'm excited about driving that. Also, it's a square setup in terms of wheels. I talked about it coming on 20s, and these are 21s, but we've got 285 section rubber all round. So the amount of traction is really, really big. And that's probably a lot to do with its shorter braking distance. Jumping inside, well, it all feels quite familiar because my wife has an A5 Sportback at the moment. So all of these screens and all of this switchgear is very, very similar. But there are a lot of RS touches. Let's start with the wheel. Well, this particular one is clad in Alcantara, or I think Audi call it Dynamica. We have a little racing stripe at the top, and it feels really, really nice. We also have a boost button here and an RS button here that you can save all your favorite presets. The boost button essentially gives you 10 seconds of maximum everything. The seats visually look like a modified version of what you'll find in the current S5. The bolsters seem to be a little bit more pumped up. They're very comfortable and they are very supportive. You can't get any optional carbon buckets in this car, but I wouldn't be surprised if we do see them a little bit further down the line. Maybe they're going to do a competition version. Also, this particular example has this matte carbon trim on the interior and on the exterior. I'm not the biggest fan of it, if I'm being totally honest. It kind of reminds me of something you'd find in a really tacky Lamborghini Urus, but thankfully you can go for piano black and I'm sure some other trims. I think this particular Bedford green car would look stunning with like a brown or Tartufo interior. Something else to note as well is the seat belts. It's just those finishing touches that are really nice, and that's the sort of thing that Porsche would offer you in a 911. Now, I'm not going to go into too much detail about what's changed with the infotainment, but there are some RS specific modes on here, and it's great to see on the screen here we have a color-coded RS5 Saloon. Torque rear, that's the drift mode that I was talking about on the outside, where essentially it feels like the rear end has lost sort of 50% of its traction, makes the car almost unstable at the rear. Also, as standard, you get Audi driving experience. I'm assuming you can set it up for your favorite circuit. So if you take the car out on track and you can measure your drifts and your drift angles, and that also comes up on the passenger display. So if your passenger doesn't feel sick enough already when you take them out drifting, they can check it out for themselves. Last thing to talk about really is the driving position, and it's pretty good. I think it's definitely improved on the previous generation. I'm 6'4" and I have plenty of headroom above me. The wheel feels good. I've adjusted this to fit me. I did sit in the back a little bit earlier with my driving position, and there's not much legroom or headroom in the Saloon, but I know in terms of headroom that will improve when we jump in the Avant. Right, the last thing to do, I guess, is start it up. So let's make sure we're in the right mode. Dynamic, start button. That's the first time I've started this car, it's the first time I've heard it, and actually, that is impressive. Anyway, let's go and check out the RS5 Avant. I keep trying to say RS4 Avant, but you know what I mean. I think the Saloon is pretty and it looks really muscular, but this one in progressive red, it shows off all of the angles and all of the styling. And when we walked in here today, this was the first car that they showed us off camera, and my jaw was on the floor. It's just stunning, absolutely stunning. But as with the Saloon, it does weigh a lot. In fact, it's 15 kilos heavier, so 2,370 kilos. I was going to point out my favorite angles and details on this car, but I have to say, it just looks good everywhere. And I'm not just saying that for the camera, it really, really does. I'm an M3 touring guy. I've just ordered another one because I love that car. I love the way it looks. But even I'm going to take my hat off and say that once again, Audi have done a fantastic job, and I reckon this is a better looking car than the M3 Touring. And I can't believe I'm saying that just weeks before I'm picking my one up. It'll be interesting to see how it drives with all that extra weight. And it looks like it's going to handle well. It's got such nice wide tracks and all of the trick stuff going on with the latest Quattro all-wheel drive system. And trademark oval RS exhausts in the back there that just look brilliant, really aggressive diffuser. This one's got the gloss carbon, which I much prefer over the, let's just call it the tacky carbon on the other one. I don't like that at all. This is really, really nice. Color-coded roof, contrasts super well with all the piano black detailing. And even the black wheels. I'm not a black wheel guy. I don't particularly like them because they never show off that well in photos, but in real life, they just suit this car and this spec. Same front wings. We've got these lovely air breathers around the back. Then we get around the front of the car, and as with so many Audis, especially RS products, we have a massive grille. Even the bonnet, which is the stock item off the regular A5, suits this car. It fits really well, all the contours on it. It's just all come together so well. You can probably tell I'm quite excited about this car, and it makes me really want to drive it. So I'm looking forward to getting behind the wheel of it very soon. Talking of that, should we just get behind the wheel quickly, have a look inside, see if it's different to the Saloon? Inside, well, from the driver's seat, at least it feels exactly the same. That's because, well, it essentially is. Same driving position, although this one has black leather seats. There's no Dynamica on the seats themselves, but we do have Dynamica on the wheel, and we have a red stripe at the top. We have contrasting red stitching. All comes together really well, and that stitching runs all the way along the door cards, along the dashboard. All looks good. I've had a quick sit in the back, and I'm happy to report that, as I predicted, there's a lot more headroom in the Avant compared to the Saloon, because the Saloon is really actually a Sportback. It's like the old RS5 Sportback with the sloping roofline. So if you are going to have taller passengers in the back seat, then you definitely need to go for the Avant, because it gives you a lot more headroom. This one also doesn't have the pan roof. It has a metal roof, which probably helps a little bit more with that extra headroom. Everything we've talked about in the Saloon is the same in here. We've got the passenger display, we've got all these screens. In fact, if we turn the ignition on, it all comes to life. And we've also got all of those cool modes. If we go into the main menu here, we've got the Audi driving experience, we've got the car section. Let's see if they've color coded the car. Oh yes, they have. That's brilliant. That's a great little touch. You see, when you own these sort of cars, small details like that are really important, because it wasn't so many years ago where you might have a green car and then on the display it'll show you a Daytona grey car. And I think color coding that graphic and that car there to what you've got makes little small changes and improves the sort of ownership experience. The last thing to do, really, and it's a bit childish, is start it up, because, well, at the end of the day, it's an RS product that still has a combustion engine under the bonnet. So let's make sure we're in the right mode. So I think if we go here to dynamic, and you can configure your RS button to give you whatever settings you want, because obviously you've got adjustable steering weights, you've got adjustable suspension, you've got essentially adjustable throttle, depending on how responsive you want that to be. But you can pre-program all of those into the RS button. And just like the Saloon, we have a boost button here that gives you 10 seconds of everything. I'm going to put my left foot on the brake, and I'm going to press the start button. That is such a good soundtrack. And I know it's a cold start, and I know in 15 seconds that's going to die down, but still, it's just fantastic that a car that's brand new and produced in 2026 can still sound that good. Let's give it a little blip. It's really cold actually, but I mean, that's 4,000 RPM. Is there a rev limiter? Yes, there is. Not much else to say aside from the fact that I am really looking forward to getting behind the wheel of one of these, either of these, very soon. It'd be interesting to see what Audi Sport have done in terms of hiding all of that weight and all of that mass. It'll also be interesting to see what this is like on a UK road, because as we talked about next door, it is very wide and our roads in the UK are not that wide. So it might be a little bit tricky to pilot along. But otherwise, yeah, I hope you enjoyed this video. Please give us a thumbs up if you did. Let us know in the comments below. Also, let me know what you want me to cover when I do get to drive one of these, and I'll take note. And otherwise, yeah, make sure you're subscribed for the next one. Big thanks to Audi Sport for inviting me out here, and I'll see you soon. Cheers.